Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. Stasis is a 2017 science fiction movie that was directed by Nicole Jones-Dion, stars Anna Ha and Mark Grossman. And it is a very ambitious science fiction movie, I'll say that right off the bat, to the point where it is too ambitious for a first-time director and a production with the obvious limitations that this film has. Let me start by saying that one of the major things that lets this film down is its unoriginality, as it borrows heavily from the following: Trancers, Terminator, 12 Monkeys, Blade Runner, Star Wars, Time Cop, a little bit of Ghostbusters, and a little bit of X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, any film that's trying to combine elements, no matter how small, and some of them is small, of all them movies into one science fiction movie has got their hands full. And this film definitely has its hands full and ultimately drops the ball. What we get here, so originally at the beginning of the movie we are introduced to the world. There's been a nuclear war. It's the year 2067, I believe. It's an apocalyptic future, and what we learn is there's two battling factions. There's the Cabal and the Rebels, Star Wars, and the Cabal dress a little bit like the Empire, behave a little bit like the Empire, and there's even one baddie that you see occasionally throughout the movie that's got a bit of a mask and breathes heavily. That's your Star Wars influence. But we learn that the rebels can travel back in time, and if they call it stasis, but what they do is actually they send the person back in time, but you wake up in the past, in somebody else's body, but it's somebody's body who's on the brink of death or is just about to die. So there are these two rebels that go back in time. One of them goes into a man, and the woman ends up going into this teen who is having a drug overdose, but she just doesn't die. So when she takes over this body from the future, Trancers, X-Men Days of Future Past, she, if you like, ejects this teen from the body, but she's not dead. She's like a ghost, or something like that. And their mission in the past is to try and stop the nuclear war and from taking place in the first place, and to stop the Cabal and their evil plans. Not that we learn what their evil plans are at all in the movie, which is a major downfall, because we never really learn what they are actually planning to do in the past. We're just told they need to go in the past and stop the war from happening, but we never actually see them do anything about that. They just sort of potter about, really. So, they're in the past, they're in these bodies. There's this teen, it's a ghost that's following around, who's a bit of a goth teen, really horrible to her mum, etc, etc, and she's learning her own lessons through the eyes of this futuristic rebel in her body. All that kind of stuff. But also, the Cabal in the future send back a hunter to take out these rebels, Terminator. And this hunter devises this weapon that they can throw at the rebels, but rather than kill them, it like captures their soul, Ghostbusters, and gets transported back to the future so that they can see what they've been doing on these kind of computer scanner things. And that's kind of the story that we get here. The Blade Runner influence comes from the opening credits. It's a proper riff of the Blade Runner theme song at the beginning. I'm surprised they haven't been sued for it, really. It's so similar. There's so much wrong with this movie. It's very ambitious, and I do applaud them for really, really trying. But it's just too much for anybody to handle what they're trying to do in this movie. There just is. To make all this stuff work would have been, you need a massive budget and much more talented cast and crew. The cast itself, overall, the acting is at best average and sometimes far worse than that. Pretty amateurish at times. But some of them do a decent job. Um, there isn't enough action to keep you interested. There's a couple of action scenes, but they're fairly flat and dull. There's just not enough sci-fi either to keep you interested. It's set mostly in the past, in our time, 2017, obviously for budget reasons because they couldn't afford these huge sets. Um, I mean, if you're a sci-fi fan and you can respect the fact that they really did try with this movie, you'll probably get some fun out of this. I found, for me personally, I found there were too many faults for me and too many. It was too jumbled for me to get a huge amount of enjoyment of it. I found it pretty poor on all fronts, but I would imagine there are some sci-fi film fans out there would appreciate this for what it is. It's a decent attempt, but ultimately it's a failure. Is this film? I'm afraid to say.